5, 6, 7, 8.
Engaged. Some of us are engaged.
I'm engaged in something.
Yeah.
Very different.
It's true. We're going to find out what it is. Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Gilmore to Say with Tara and Haley. I'm Tara. This is Haley. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Tara. My name's not, I'm not Haley. I'm Haley BFOTB.
Yes, you are, because if you haven't heard yet, I'm a Sadie. I'm engaged. And you're my best friend. So BFOTB.
BFOTB. I just saw I'm not Suki. I'm Suki BFOTB.
OTB. I loved it. I loved when you posted that. But yeah.
I love it so much. She's going to be a married lady.
I am. I'm so excited. So on Saturday, May 24th, Brett proposed. Yeah. And he liked it. And he put a ring on it.
He liked it.
So yeah, so exciting. We've shared it on socials. If you're with us on Patreon, you got to watch me tell Haley in real time. So everybody may already know this, but I didn't want that to just be where the story sat, right? Just on Patreon, where, you know, it was really, really cool to tell our vicious trollops pretty much live, unless they weren't there and they got to see it afterwards. They got to see the reaction. But when I shared it on social media, so many of our listeners were like, I can't wait to hear the story. And I was like, well, of course.
They were at a wedding. Yes.
Yeah, that really cracked me up. So I know that this week was going to be our ATX 10-year anniversary episode, but we're actually going to do that next week because the ATX 2015 panel was on June 6th, 2015. And so we're 10 years past that, which is so crazy to think about. So I'm really excited to dive in. Part of the reason, in addition to the fact that I got engaged, that we aren't doing that episode this week is because
she also got
sick. Engaged and then I got the flu. You can kind of still hear it in my voice because I'm, oh my God.
You got that puffy throat voice.
I do. And it's still just kind of like sitting like in the back of my sinuses. But it's just, oh my God. Haley and I were recording, gosh, what episode? It was Will You Be My Lorelai Gilmore? And at the end of the episode, like Haley and I are doing our usual yap, you know, afterwards. And Haley was talking.
Post-yap.
The post-yap. And I swear to you, I didn't hear half of what you said because, like, you know that feeling when it just washes over you and you're like.
Yeah, Tara was like, I'm fading. I need to go take a nap.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, bye. Later.
And then like later I texted her and I was like, Haley, I'm sick. Yeah. Like, I'm
first
sick.
Pancake.
I'm laid out like a pancake. And you said the first pancake? I said exactly.
Yeah.
Which if you've watched, Will You Be My Lorelai Gilmore, you get it. But
you get it.
Yeah. Tuesday we went to trivia and I genuinely thought I was just like exhausted. We had a really exciting weekend, which of course we'll talk about in a second.
Drank a lot. It was so fun.
Yeah,
like,
we had a lot of champagne.
You were tired. People were in town.
Family was here. Yeah, it was just like, you know, a lot more than what I'm used to in the best way. But then like I
usually
just thought
keep to your enclosure.
Yeah, I thought my body hit a wall, and it did, but in a way I wasn't expecting. And so
and then the wall
we
hit
left. It really did. It said, "Oh, you're so excited." Boom. But we left trivia early. We usually stay through the whole thing. And I was like, hey, Brett, we got to go because I just feel exhausted. And when we got home, I was like, I crawled into the bathtub and I just like turned the water on and he went and got ice cream. He came back and he was like, you're already in the tub. I was like, dude, I'm not okay. And he was like, oh no. And then for just 2 straight days, it's just been pretty tough. So we're on the upswing, which is great.
Yeah, great.
Which is really great.
But on a Friday, which is
so
this is the weirdest week we've ever had.
Weird week. Yeah. We haven't recorded on a Friday in a very long time.
Like years.
We've recorded every other weekday of the week except for Friday.
We don't do Fridays.
No, we don't. We don't do Fridays. So yeah. But anyway, that's why we're getting a nice special edition engagement episode. Also, because we wanted to share it with you guys. And we wanted to share it sooner rather than later. We didn't want to push it too far. Of course, we had our whole June planned, which we're really excited about the remainder of June. We have some really fun episodes coming up.
Yeah.
But we wanted to share this story. I'm really excited to tell you guys. But again, if you want to see Haley's reaction, which was one of my favorite things I've ever experienced with you, it was so fun to watch back. It was even more fun to live it. But
it was positively wild because on Monday we decided to do a VTO. We have a VTO episode, bonus episode every month where we just like chitter chatter about various topics in our life outside of Gilmore Girls. And we were going to do it live. We thought it'd be super fun. And Tara had told me that she had a really good pasta over the weekend. And I was like, cool. Can't wait to hear about the pasta.
Yeah. We had
like
a whole meeting on Monday, just an admin meeting like we normally do. And I was eating the leftover pasta, which was really fucking good.
And you were like, I'll tell you about it later. I was like, great. And Brett had just gone viral on Instagram and the places because he finally got to Balalekas. He saw Jess.
Why did you drop out of Yale?
Yeah. He was beside himself, of course.
Of course.
And so little Mr. Brett, he went viral. And so we were like, oh my gosh, this is such a big moment for us to talk about him getting here, how he felt, especially after being on the podcast earlier this year. And so she was like, yeah, we'll talk about Brett and then we'll get into the topic for today. And I was like, great. Also, I want to hear about that pasta.
But I don't know if you noticed this. I said something very specific. I said, oh yeah, this is going to be a big Brett episode. And I was like, she doesn't even know.
I don't even know. I had no idea. My favorite thing though was when you asked Brett who knew and you asked if I knew and he said, no, I'm going to leave that to you. What in your mind was like, oh, I'm going to tell her live?
Well, okay. So admittedly, I've always thought to myself, especially because you and I have, and our listeners have been through so much together, like so much of our lives, and especially my relationship with Brett has really grown.
Can I say, I went back and listened to Last Week Fights, This Week Engaged, one of our like very early episodes from summer 2022, when we talked about engagements, weddings, bachelorette parties, everything to do with kind of like centered around weddings and being engaged. And at the beginning of it, you and Brett had just started your Gilmore journey. You guys had just started dating. Like it was like very early on because this was like May, June.
Oh my God. Crazy.
Yeah. You were talking about how someone had called us Babette and Patty, but then you realized that we were Babette and Maury, and Brett was Miss Patty because he had just met her and loved her.
Yeah.
And it was just so fun to hear you talk about him like in this like, oh yeah, this is my boyfriend. We're new.
We're new. We're fun. It's cool.
In this engagement episode. And then now we have an engagement episode with him.
Yeah.
Well, not with
so
him,
cool.
but about him. Because you're
about him. Yeah, it's funny. It's and heartwarming because we've always said that if you listen to the show, you're listening to the two of us become friends, which I think is so special. But you're also, you know, listening to the journey of our lives and how things evolve and how things change, which is the beautiful part of any podcast that you listen to with two people who are friends. You get to listen to like the inner workings of their lives and
the days of our lives.
Yeah. And so I always pictured myself, if and when Brett and I got engaged, I knew exactly, you know, how I wanted to tell you. I wanted to use language from the show. And I told you this when we were recording the other night, that I always wanted to start it out by going, I have something to tell you. I have something to share with you, actually, because that is how Lorelai starts to tell Luke that Max asked her to marry him. And of course,
it's about your Max and I'm your Luke.
No, see, then that's why I didn't.
Then that's
do
when
it.
The metaphor stops.
That's where the metaphor ends. But it's the Sadie scene between Luke and Lorelai is one of my favorite scenes to quote. It's like something I know by heart. It's something that's ingrained in me. So it was something I always wanted to use, and I was like, I mean, I really want to film her reaction just because that's just how we've shared so much of our lives together. But when we had the opportunity to do it in front of some of our listeners, I was like, wow, that's really special.
Yeah. And it just like the timing of it was so ideal.
Someone
perfect.
asked Brett if he knew that the live was happening. And he was like,
not a chance.
No, I had no idea.
He has no idea what goes on in this room.
No. So let me rewind, because I know we keep talking about me telling you, but let me rewind.
Yeah. Which again, if you do want to see the full version of this, it's on Patreon.
And it's
called The Big One.
Yeah. For a reason.
You know what? Something though that is really fun about you having told me and everyone getting to see you tell me is in that episode I was listening to, I realized that we never saw Lorelai tell Suki that she was engaged.
To
Max.
Yes, she does.
No. Sorry. I'm going to reverse that. We never see Suki tell Lorelai she's engaged to Jackson.
Yeah.
I got that backwards. But yeah. So I was like, oh, but we get to see you tell me.
That's true. So, and what I'm also really excited about is that there are a couple things I forgot to tell you the other night. That like upon rewatching, I was like, oh,
she was nervous.
Well, there were a lot of things to share. And yes, I was very nervous because I wanted to make sure that I did it right. And that it was fun and that we just like had a silly time. And it was so, you know, there are so many things that when it happens in the moment, you forget, you know, all the little details. And then afterwards you're like, oh my God, I forgot to tell her about that. So last Wednesday, we got a call, Brett and I, while we were sitting on the couch, from his sister and her husband who live in New York City. They live downtown. And they had shared with us that over the weekend, which it was Memorial Day weekend, they had friends coming in from out of town they hadn't seen in a while, and they made a dinner reservation at this restaurant called Lure, which was
Lure.
Like, Lure. And they're Lure. Anyway, so they had this dinner reservation and they said, you know, we were really excited. We put a deposit down on this reservation. Unfortunately, they had to cancel. And we just wanted to know if you guys wanted to come with us. If, you know, dinner's on us. And I was like, say less, I'm there. So
I love dinner, as it turns out.
Love dinner. So that was for Saturday night. And Brett was like,
Were you suspicious at this point?
No, I was not suspicious. There were some moments along the way that had me at one point go, like, the thought passed through my mind of like,
could be.
That would be interesting if they went through all this trouble to do this. Nah. As quickly as it arrived, it also left my brain. So farewell. Yes and no, but mostly no. So Brett told me that, or told Scarlett and Dave, like, oh, the only thing I have going on Saturday is I have to tour this event space for my job. Now, he had been telling me that the company that he works for had been wanting to do more boutique events and things that were kind of smaller. And he'd been looking at certain events throughout the month, or looking at certain event spaces rather. And, I honestly didn't think twice about it. When he said he had to go look at an event space, I just was like, on a Saturday? I was like half listening. He was like, yeah, I just have to go tour this event space. And I was like, that's weird.
My ADHD saved me in this moment.
Yeah, it truly did, because he was like, it's okay, I'll bring Tara with me. And I was like, oh.
You will?
You will? All right.
Are you bringing a snack too? Like, what?
Exactly. I was like, all right.
Okay.
He was like, where is the restaurant? And they were like, it's down in Soho. So he looked up, he was like, oh, that's perfect, because I'm looking at a venue in Soho. So we'll just like go a little early, go to the event space, and then we'll meet you at the restaurant. And I was like, all right, sure.
Just tag along.
I was just like,
I guess I'm coming to this thing with you.
Yeah, I'm just here. And because there was a deposit put down on this place, we knew it was like an upscale restaurant, right? Like we kept calling it fancy dinner. And kept being like, we have fancy dinner. And so Saturday morning I texted and I was like, hey, how fancy are we getting here? And Scarlett told me what she was wearing. And I was this close to going to TJ Maxx after work at Death Becomes Her.
Just to get a new look.
Just get a new outfit. That's who I am. I go out somewhere. It's like, I want to like look good, feel good. I'd considered like renting something, because I'm like, if we're going to an upscale restaurant, like I want to look nice. I want to show up and feel good. Yeah. And I didn't. I was like, be smart about this. You have plenty of things in your closet that you can, pull from. You're fine. And Brett and I had been talking about going to the nail salon around the corner from our apartment to get pedicures, because I needed a new one. The last time I had gotten a gel pedicure was for Paley Fest. And so we had been talking about going. I had been going there for massages. They're great. And so we had been talking about that for honestly,
and you're a press-on girl.
I'm a press-on girl.
Yeah.
Yes. So I had press-ons on already. That was already covered.
Pressed on.
They were already pressed on. So I wanted to just get my toes done.
It just feels like one of those things, though, that like you know, like your friends know about your engagement. So you're like, do you want to go get your nails done?
Yeah.
And like, it kind of feels like he was getting his nails done because you're a press-on girl.
Here's the thing is that one of the main questions that a lot of people have been asking is like, did you know it was coming? And I always thought that I would know it was coming because of those like telltale signs.
Yeah.
Getting my nails done. You know, the thought when it crossed my mind of like, that would be so interesting if this was like a ruse to get me somewhere for Brett to propose. And the reason that it left my brain so fast was because I was like, he would be on top of me asking me what I was wearing. And when I told him that, he was like, that's exactly why I didn't ask you what you were wearing. And I was like, you're so smart.
Did he like want to though? Was there like this beast inside of him that was like, I want to ask, I want to ask, I want to ask. But he was like, nope, can't give it away.
I don't know. I should ask him. I actually didn't ask him. It all just kind of fell together really perfectly, which is great because I'm very easy. I'm very, very hard to surprise. Like, I will snuff out anything because I'm like, what are you doing? What's that about? But at the same time, I'm so glad that I didn't suspect because I loved how much of a surprise this was. So
to both of us.
Truly. So Saturday morning, I go to work. Again, the thought crosses my mind of like, should I go get a new outfit? And I was like, no, because we're going to go get pedicures. And I don't want to hold that up because we have to go to dinner tonight. And so I get home, Brett and I go, we get pedicures. I was this close to texting him and being like, meet me at TJ Maxx. I want to get a new outfit. And that would have been really fun, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So we go, he, you know, gets his nails shaped and, you know, gets like a clear coat done. I get my pedicure. And my friend Emily, who we do trivia with, she runs trivia at our favorite bar on the Upper West Side. She texted me and was like, hey, I'm in the area. Do you want to get a drink? And I was like, no, we're getting ready. We're like going to dinner tonight. She was like, okay, do you want to get brunch tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I work until 12. Let's get some brunch. And I said, can I invite Brett? And she was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, hey, this was while we were sitting at the nail salon. I said, Emily and I are going to get brunch tomorrow. Do you want to come? And he was like, maybe. I said, maybe? What are you doing? Because it was Memorial Day weekend. He had the weekend off. And I was like, he goes, I'm a maybe. I was like, what? Why? And he was like, I don't know. I might be sleeping. I said, we're getting brunch at like noon. And he was like, I said what I said. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. And
what
so
a like perfect excuse though. Cause it's like, what do you even say to that? Like, okay.
Yeah.
You're asleep. Great.
Okay. I just was like, all right, man.
Sure.
So
you do you.
Yeah. I was very much just like, okay. And,
like, Emily, don't you fucking ruin this for me.
I know. I'm so surprised he didn't text her, but it ended up working out. So we leave the nail salon, we go home. I hop in the shower. I'm getting ready. And I realize that like I'm running behind. And we have this reservation. They put a deposit down. Not only that, but he has to do something for work beforehand. And I was like, all right, worst comes to worst, I'll meet him at the restaurant. Like, ain't no thing.
Yeah.
So it's 5:25. We're supposed to be at the event space at 6 to tour this place. And
dinner's at 6:30.
Dinner's at 6:30. It's 5:25. And it takes us about 30 minutes to get to Soho. So I had been working backwards. And while we were on our way from the nail salon back to our apartment, I said, what's the name of this restaurant again? He was like, why? I was like, because I want to look at the menu. And he's like, that's so funny that you do that. And I was like, I never do that. I just wanted to look at it. Like he was like, and now in hindsight, I'm like, why are you being so weird?
No,
like,
I would be like, if someone didn't let me look at the menu beforehand so that I could like pre-pick out what I wanted to. Like when we went to that, when we were in LA at Hotel Roosevelt and we ate at the bar, it was not the menu that I had seen online. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I got to make a new decision. So like if someone didn't let me look at the menu, I'd be like, I think that at that point they would have to make up a whole website. They'd have to put a menu together.
So funny because he showed it to me on his phone. It was almost like he didn't want me to look it up. And I actually never asked him why he did that, but it was just so funny that he was like, so funny that you do that. I was like, baby, I never do that. I just was curious about what the menu was because I didn't even look up what kind of restaurant this was.
Oh, now you're insulting me?
Yeah, it was so funny. Like all these little things that like, you know, in the moment didn't like phase me.
They didn't
but
connect,
in hindsight, I'm like, oh, okay, you were being a weirdo. So
I'm marrying a weirdo.
I'm marrying a weirdo. I already knew that. So I'm like finishing up my hair and I asked this chick over here, Miss Lexi, what time it was. And he heard me ask and he said, how long do you think you need, my love? And I was like, oh, like 5 or 10 minutes. And it was 5:25. I said, if you want, I can meet you at the restaurant. He was like, no, this is so low stress. Don't worry about it. Take your time. And I was like, all right.
I love how you received that though, because my thought would have been like, if you were asking me like how you would respond to that, my thought would have been like, it would have like increased your like desire to go meet him at the restaurant. Like, no, you go. Like, let me have my time. Like, there's something about that I just find so interesting. You're like, cool.
Honestly, it was because he was so calm. He wasn't rushing me. He wasn't like, are you almost done? Like, he was very much like, baby, like, take your time. There is no rush here. The stakes are so low. Yeah. And something about his sister, Scarlett, and she would say this about herself, like anybody in the family would say this, so this isn't meant to be a slight, is that she is notoriously late. Yeah. And that is something that he brought up. He was like, Scarlett's probably going to be running late. Don't worry about it. It's fine. So I do wrap in about 5-10 minutes. And we're on our way out the door. And he texts Scarlett. We're all in a group text together. And she was like, hey, I'm running late. Already called the restaurant. They know we're running a little behind. And Brett was like, cool. And I almost texted him and was like, we're running late too. That's so funny.
What a coincidence. I bet no one said anything to anyone about it. Like, it just happened to be that you're late.
So we get down to Soho and it's so funny because he kept talking about the REI building or the REI store. He was like, yeah, I just know the REI store is near there. And I was like, okay. He kept saying it like throughout the week. He's like, oh, it's right near the REI store. And I was like,
he did someone
really likes the REI store.
Someone wants to go hiking.
Yeah. So we get there.
They have a really good not public bathroom. They have a really good bathroom if you're ever down there. Well, need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, of course. Given the building that it's in, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
So it was a very short walk from the subway and we get there. Again, I am like so oblivious. I'm just following him. And so we get to this restaurant. I didn't know if we were going to an event space. I didn't know if we were going to, like, I didn't know what this was, right? I didn't know if we were going to be in like an empty room.
Yeah, it gives like warehouse, empty space, pop up, like that kind of vibe.
Totally.
Like lofty space.
And I didn't ask any questions about this event. I wasn't curious about this event whatsoever. Which again is so not like me. I usually ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, you were just like jamming, vibing. Here for the vibes.
Yeah. So when we got to the front, it's a restaurant called Teresi. And there was a guy at the door and he was really cool. And he was like, hey, Brett said, hey, are you John? He's like, no, are you Brett? Like, John is expecting you. And so I was like, oh, cool, great. Everybody here is really nice.
Yeah, everyone knows Brett. Cool.
Yeah,
did you guys see his video? He went viral.
He went viral. I know that you might not be able to tell because he's wearing a shirt. But
yes, but still equally as charming and delightful.
It's true.
You recognize him.
Yeah, I get it. So we get to the front and the hostesses were really nice. And then John comes up behind them and was like, oh, are you Brett? Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Like, and Brett's like, this is my partner, Tara. She's just here as a second brain. And he was like, awesome. So glad to have you here. And I, again, was trying to stay kind of like this isn't my thing. This is Brett's thing,
just kind of stand back.
Yeah.
Admire what's happening, but like not get involved.
Yeah. I'm just there. Right.
Chilling.
And so I'm just chilling. And we walk through the restaurant. It's
like you go with your mom somewhere and you're just standing there
and you're just kind of like, yeah, this is my mom. I'm just here.
I hope it's not your mom.
So we walked through this restaurant. It was beautiful. And I kept thinking to myself, like, we should have eaten here. Shit, this is
I know.
really nice restaurant.
When I told my family about that and I told her that, my mom laughed. She was like, she just wanted to eat there.
Yeah. Little did she know. So he takes us through the restaurant and he's talking to Brett about like, you guys could have this here and you guys could have this there, blah, blah, blah.
John's an actor, BFA.
John must be an actor. He played his part so well. And so
he's been rehearsing all day at work.
Literally. He was like, hey, do you think this is good? Should I say this?
I didn't think about that the first time you told me this, that like John was like paid actor.
It was perfect.
Does he even work there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I wonder.
And he's amazing.
Yeah.
So he takes us through to this private room and he was like, so there's a private room back here, which is probably where you're going to want to host this event. It's set up for a birthday party right now, but like that's not going to start for a little bit. So we can sneak in there before the party gets started. Take a couple pictures, whatever you want to do. So go in and it's really nice. It was so lovely. I loved it. I was taking pictures. I was like, I'm not even here for the birthday party or a work event. I'm just here. And so John's explaining, you know, you could do this. You could do a sit down dinner. You blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm half listening. But just kind of nodding as if I am. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm here. Yeah.
Like when your mom's talking to one of her friends you don't know and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so Brett was like, thanks so much. Do you mind if we take a couple pictures? And he was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'll be back. So John leaves and I'm taking pictures. And Brett's starting to like look around the room and he's starting to explain to me what they're doing, which he says, you know, there's this chef and this is a chef that we had watched. We made this very specific pasta dish a couple weeks ago. And this woman's name is escaping me, but she's like a well-known chef. And he's like, we're actually doing kind of like a TED Talk / like cooking segment with her because there was a test kitchen.
Cool.
Yes, there was
like
a test
literally
kitchen.
I was like,
right
I want to
there.
go.
I know. I was like, I'd love to watch her do this. And so he's like, so like there'll be like 20 or 30 people here, and then the test kitchen is here, so she'll be doing that. And I was like, awesome, great. And as this is happening, right before we left, I noticed that one of my nails, my press-ons, was missing, and so I didn't have time to glue it on. It was on my right hand. And so I put my nail glue in my pocket of my jacket. And as he's talking to me on my left hand, on my ring finger, my nail, my press-on starts falling off. And so as he's talking to me and like starting to take pictures, I'm like gluing this nail on, like standing there. I can't believe I did that.
That's my favorite part because like he's probably over here stressing the fuck out. Like he's like, oh my gosh, what's the moment? When do I break the ruse? And you're just like do gluing on my press on.
La 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 la. He's taking pictures and I'm in the background. I'm like, is it okay that I'm in the background of these photos?
Yeah. Wait, it reminds me of that one TikTok sound that's like it's like the really fast music and then it goes that I'm spinning like a ballerina. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
I used it when I did the Paris versus Rory working on their schoolwork.
Yes, the yeah. That's me.
That's you and Brett in this moment.
Wait, you're so right. That's so real. That is so real. So I'm taking pictures, I'm taking videos because this place is cute. It's beautiful. And I wanted to remember
and you're
it.
Like,
and
are his photos very good?
Well, I was like, he's going to send these to his boss, whatever. I was like, I'll probably use this in a reel later this year of like beautiful places that I've been.
Yeah.
And so he started explaining, he's explaining to me, and I will. And so he starts explaining to me the event, and then he's like, wait, let's take a selfie. And so he starts taking these selfies of us. And it's so funny to look back on them because it's one of those things where I'm like, this, like, she doesn't know it yet, but in 2 minutes she's going to be engaged. And, you know, he starts talking to me about, you know, I don't remember what he said first.
No, you told me that he kept telling you that he loved you.
Yeah.
Like, over and over again.
Not abnormal for us. We are a very like mushy, gushy,
gooey, cheesy couple.
Gooey. Yeah. You're just sickened by us couple. Because we are can attest. No, we always tell each other how much we love each other. And so he was like, I love you so much. And I was like, I love you too. He's like, you're my best friend. I was like, you're my best friend. God, that rules.
He's BFOTP.
Yeah. And he said, you know, it's so funny about this building. Fun fact is that this is the same building that they shot the last scene of When Harry Met Sally in. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, you know, when they like, you know, he busts into the ballroom and it's New Year's Eve and he's like, I love the way you have like the little crinkle in your nose when I'm doing something stupid and blah, blah. I was like, yeah. And I said, oh my God, we should totally come back here. And he was like, yeah, I didn't bring you here for work. And I was like,
did you know then?
That's when I knew. Because at first he was telling me how much he loved me. And there was a piece of me that was like, is he about to propose to me right now? No.
Or is he just
like really excited to be here with me? I don't know.
Or am I just like super great?
Yeah, I'm just great. But I should have known because like if he was there for business, if he was there for work, I don't think that it would have evolved into like, you know,
selfies. I love you.
Yeah, I love you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so
we also must mention, which I'm pretty sure if like you're an early listener, When Harry Met Sally is Tara's favorite movie. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And has a lot of sentimental ties to my relationship with Brett. When, I mean, he knew it was my favorite movie, but I'll get into the nitty gritty details because there's so much backstory to everything that I'm about to share. So he tells me, you know, I didn't bring you here for work. I brought you here because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible, which is what Harry says to Sally in When Harry Met Sally. And then he got down on one knee and Harry Connick Jr. was playing in the background, which I didn't even notice until he told me because I was just so shocked. I was like, oh my God. And he pulled this sucker out. When you first told me
that, I thought you meant that Harry Connick Jr. was
actually there
in the background and you just didn't notice him.
No, it's like just Harry in the corner.
I was like, why is that such a small detail of this story that Harry Connick Jr. was there?
No, he wasn't physically there. That would have been something else. That would have been wow.
But still, it was fantastic.
No, it was amazing. And yeah, then he asked me to marry him. And I immediately said yes. And then he stood up and we hugged. And then I asked him to do it again because I didn't take it in the first time. And so he got back down on one knee and opened the box. And I was like, yes. And yeah.
When I told this story to my dad was there, he was like, wait, she wanted him to do it again? Was her answer going to change? I was like, no. I had to like really elaborate that like she just didn't take it in. She wanted, it was like, I was like, you know, when Rory went to Yale, because he's of course seen it and Lorelai made her take it in again. It was like that. He was like, oh, okay, that's nice. That's
yeah.
He was like, oh, was her answer going to change?
No.
Could you imagine if you said yes? And you would do it again? No.
I don't know.
Where's Harry Connick Jr.?
Yeah. Did you bring Harry with you? I told you this when we talked about it on Monday, but Dave, Brett's brother-in-law, kept making jokes about Harry Connick Jr. like, and here he is now. Like he was going to walk in. It was really funny. Anyway, so he gives me this absolutely unbelievably stunning ring. And
which he designed,
ethically sourced from Brilliant Earth, which I found out that so many of my friends, so many women I know have also had their rings. Kayla Murphy, Caroline, ethically sourced from Brilliant
ethically
Earth.
Sourced. Oh my gosh, all of our ethically sourced girlies.
I know. But one of the details I forgot to tell you, and this is one of those things that like is a joke between the two of us, you and me, and a joke between me and Brett that mean two completely different things to both of us. So, and I think I've told you about this. When we were first in our courtship phase, before we even really started dating, Brett and I used to watch Dancing with the Stars together, and we would always love that Carrie Ann would go 7, and we always go 7, and it's been incorporated into our relationship a lot. Where he'd be like, do you know how much I love you? And I go 7. And it always reminds me of you and me with Clara and the beers. 7.
At the Bracebridge dinner.
Yeah.
7.
Exactly. Very different meaning for you and me.
Very different.
Than it is for me and Brett. And so 7 is a big, thing for the two of us. We always say 7 to each other. It's like a way we tell each other that we love each other.
Which is crazy that it came from Dancing with the Stars.
I know.
7.
The origin, hilarious. Carrie Ann and Abba.
7.
So good. And so he gives me this ring and he, we hug and he goes, do you know what your ring size is? I said, no. He goes, 7. And I was like,
7.
No way.
Claire
Crazy.
Forster, she predicted it.
She predicted it.
I love that so much.
So I was like, are we having dinner in here? And he was like, yeah. I said, who's here? He goes, I don't know. And then my mom walked in and then Nancy walked in and then I started sobbing because when it was all happening, I was so shocked. You know when like your body's crying, but there's no tears coming out of your face? That's what was happening.
No, that was when you told me. Like I like was like crying, but like but there were no tears.
Yes. That's how it was when he proposed.
You're almost like shaking instead.
Yes. I was like, I was so like overwhelmed, but of course in like the best way. I just like my eyes weren't producing any tears. And then when my family walked in, it was like boom. And Scarlett has a video of it, which I need to send to you. But yeah, it was my parents.
She has a video of the proposal?
No. There's no footage of the proposal. There's just a video of like them all walking in and me just losing it. So
that's a sound effect
all of our parents
crying if you're not on YouTube.
If you're not on YouTube with us. So my parents were there. My brother and his girlfriend Kaya were there. Both of his sets of parents were there and parents and siblings and his sister and her husband were there and it was perfect. It was everything I could have ever wanted. And I kept saying that all weekend because Nancy, of course, was very integral in planning all of this. And she's an unbelievable planner when it comes to events. I've talked to you guys about how she plans these amazing dinners. Yes. How she plans these amazing dinners for Christmas every year. She's so detail oriented and it was perfect. And I told her that. I was like, I could not have dreamt this up better. In the Puck building where they shot When Harry Met Sally, where they have REI, which like Brett kept talking about REI. And I was like, what are you keep talking about REI?
It seems like your honeymoon is y'all going hiking, unfortunately. I think you might be going camping.
We might be.
You got to. My favorite thing about this is when you told me every step. So of course now I know as you're retelling the story, but when she told that story live in our episode, I was there for every moment of it. Like I'm the type of friend that you're like, oh my God, I had an amazing pasta on Saturday. Do you want to hear about it? And I'm like, yeah. And so she's telling this like very, very detailed story. I thought it was going to be like, oh, the birthday party they were set up for was like Sabrina Carpenter's birthday. Or like she was like, we get to the restaurant and we're sitting next to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, like something like that. I was like,
which is kind of what I wanted you to think. I was like,
that's exactly where I thought we were going.
An experience about eating.
Yes.
And then I want to just
whack me in the head with a ring.
Bait and switch. I love
with
a bait
an ethically sourced
with an ethically sourced ring. Yeah.
But an ethically sourced bait and switch. We love it.
Yeah.
But I think that was the thing. I was like, I was so invested in the story that like when you pulled out the ring, I was like, what about the pasta?
Yeah.
I was like, for a second, like it took me a second to even like realize what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait, I wasn't ready.
I know.
You surprised me.
I know. I wasn't ready either.
I had no idea. None. I
know.
knew what the format of the episode was going to be in my mind. And I was like, cool, great. 20 minutes of this, 20 minutes of that, 20 minutes of this. 2 hours of talking about the engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so much fun. It's it's so you too. Like the entire
everything. Top to
like
tail.
It's very private yet your family came in, which I swear to God, there is somewhere on this podcast, whether it's on Gilmore to Say or Gilmore Revisited or Gilmore to Consider, where we are talking about our preferred method of getting engaged. And I listened back to that episode, admittedly at like 2.2 speed because it was almost 2 hours long of us talking about this. And I couldn't find that exact moment of us talking about it because I just remember us talking about flash mobs. And I couldn't find it in that episode. So maybe it's in another one. If one of you know where it is, do let me know. Because you asked me like my ideal wedding. And I was like, I'm wearing pink. Everyone's wearing white. South of France. Could change depending on if the man that I married like literally hates France. So yeah, totally understandable. Or if like at that point, financially, France is not an option. I will, maybe Paris, Texas.
Paris, Texas.
But you didn't say yours in that same moment. We just moved on. It was just me. And
oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And like the thing, we did talk about Pinterest weddings, that like during the pandemic, you went back to your Pinterest board and we were talking about like Chevron and like all of the things from the early 2000s or like the 2010s that were just like
2010s.
Millennial cringe with like the white dresses with the bubble
Big
necklaces and all of that. So would love to revisit your old Pinterest boards, but the only thing that really came from that is that we both wanted Kirk's Yummy Bartenders to be at our wedding.
Hilarious. It's funny because we posted on our Instagram story a little question box, just sharing the news and being like, any questions? We're like recording this episode today, comments, best wishes, concerns, you know.
Deeply concerned.
Yeah. And a lot of people asked, and we'll share some of these at the end, but a lot of people asked if Gilmore Girls was going to be incorporated in any way, and a lot of people
that question too,
asking about Kirk's Yummy Bartenders, which just made me laugh so hard.
Can I be a yummy bartender?
It's funny because last week we were talking about the what if of June 3rd.
Can you believe
we recorded
that our last episode was us like creating a wedding for Lorelai and Luke?
Yeah. And
like,
2 days later, and then I got engaged.
Yeah. Like
crazy.
Honestly wild.
Okay, so let me take you guys back through, like, I took you through the ruse and the proposal. Let me take you backwards, because I also saw that there were people who asked about whether or not I knew that it was coming. And the answer is yes and no. Mostly no, but a little bit yes.
Yes, so, that you wanted to marry him.
Yes. And yes, that I thought it was happening because of certain things that happened along the way. So, but not in this moment. I didn't.
There was that little thought that crossed your mind. Crossed the bridge and
but I
moved
did
right
not.
along.
I did not get dressed that night thinking I'm going to get engaged. In fact, like a part of the story that I left out is that I saw Brett and he looked so nice. And
velvet jacket, whole thing.
Like green velvet jacket, like black button down. He always looks so handsome. But when we were sitting at the nail salon, I said, what should I wear tonight? And he was like, I don't know, an LBD. I was like, oh, little black dress.
All right.
All right.
Just yeah.
And exactly. I was going to wear this dress that I had worn when we went out for New Year's together before we officially started dating.
We were just friends.
We were just friends, and we had made the decision that day, New Year's Eve. We were like, all right, 2022, we're going to start anew. We are just friends. We're not like ready to be a couple. Let's just like,
cool. We're just friends. And midnight kissing.
Yeah, exactly. Then we ended up kissing at midnight. But I went out that night with him to one of our favorite bars, and I was wearing this little black dress. And so I almost wore that dress, which would have been really poetic. But I didn't want to wear black. I wanted to wear something that felt a little spring, a little summer. And so if you go to the pictures on my Instagram, you can see what I was wearing.
You look very cute. Look very
you. Thank you. And I felt really great. But I told him, I said, I feel a little underdressed when I saw him. And he was like, no, I think you look great. And I was like, okay, like, is it not enough? Like, should I do something else? And I was like stressed, maybe like 2% that I wasn't going to look. Yeah, I wasn't like flipping out or anything.
It's also because you thought you were just going to eat dinner. And like, it's not like you thought you were going to your engagement or thought you were going to an event where like there was a moment that was occurring. You were just going to dinner. So there was like no real reason to be stressed, but like there's still
mostly just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to look like a ragamuffin walking into the lure.
Which you absolutely didn't. Glurb in your blur.
Yeah. Which no.
You did wear blur.
I did. So let's roll it back. So over the holidays, there were some hints that were hinted at.
As
hints do. When we did the trifecta, I think I shared, I don't know if it was on Patreon or here publicly on the pod, that Brett and I did like tour de family for the holidays. We spent Christmas in Virginia with Nancy and her husband, Tim. We spent just post Christmas in Connecticut with my family. And then we spent New Year's in New Orleans with Brett's dad and stepmom. Amazing. Exhausting, but amazing. And when we were in Virginia, Nancy and Scarlett were talking about Scarlett, Brett's sister, just got married last year, which I think I talked about on here last year as well. And so they were talking about her ring, and Nancy was poking fun at her because she has very slender fingers. She's like, look at your little boopty hands. Just like making fun of each other. It was very funny. And then they asked me, like, do you know what your ring size is?
I remember this.
And I was like,
we analyzed this.
We analyzed this together because I was like,
yeah.
I remember that feeling of like,
why would you need to know?
Right.
And then I don't know for me.
and I said I didn't know, and they actually had me try on Scarlett's ring, and it didn't fit because again, she has very slender fingers, and I don't. Yeah, boopty fingers it's the correct term. And so I don't know if it was later that day or the next day, Nancy pulled out a bunch of jewelry that was her mom's. And she's like, hey, yeah, like try this on, try that on. We were all trying stuff on. And Brett found this ring that he's been wearing as a pinky ring. And it was his Nana's, Nancy's mom's. And I had tried it on and it fit my ring finger perfectly. I knew what was happening.
You're like, you guys,
here's the thing.
Just put one on all of my fingers if you want. Like,
here's the thing. I'm not going to ruin the fun.
Yeah. But you're like...
But I knew what was happening, and
I can see what's happening.
Exactly. Yes. But they don't have a clue. Yeah. And my best friend, Danielle, she just got engaged back in literally January 2nd. And I remember she got engaged after this happened, but I remember talking to her about it afterwards. When she was telling me about her engagement, because she knew it was coming. They designed their ring together. And she found something like right before he proposed that like kind of led her down the path of like, okay, I know kind of when this is coming. And she's like, I could have ribbed him about it. I could have, said something. I could have like been like, hey, why is your location off? Why are you at the, jeweler? She's like, why would I do that? He worked so hard on this. And I was like, you're so right. Like,
it's not his fault I'm the FBI.
Exactly. God.
Yeah.
So.
Which also we analyzed that situation.
Yes, we did.
And compared it to the previous one.
Yes, we did. So that was Virginia. Then in Connecticut, we were having a conversation about my cousin had just gotten married. And so I was sitting with his mom, who's my aunt. She's also my godmother, my Aunt Eileen. And we were talking about weddings and whatnot. And I said something to the effect of like, well, if we get married. And Brett looked at me and I was like, when we get married? He was like, there you go. And I was like, oh, all right.
Add it to the list.
And then when we were in New Orleans, we went to a concert with one of his best friends, Allison. And Brett went to the bathroom at one point and she grabbed me and she was a little drunk. But she was like, I've known him for so long and he's never ever talked about anybody the way he talks about you. And I just feel like this is the one, And I was like, oh my God, all of these things are happening. Am I about to get proposed to? And so when I got home and like decompressed from the trip and from like, the New Year's and like all the energy that comes with, the holidays into the transition of the New Year, I called my mom and I was like, hey, I need you to be really honest with me. Has Brett said anything to you or hinted anything at you that he might be proposing to me? And she sounded very shocked. She was like, what? No. And I was like, okay. I said, I'm just curious. Literally Academy Award.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just curious because I explained to her what happened and she was like, I can't believe you're just telling me about this. It's been like weeks. I was like, well, I didn't know.
Liar.
And again, like liar. And I said to her, I was like, I told her about what Danielle said. I said, I don't want to ruin the fun. Like there's something exciting about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just wanted to ask because of course, like, I would hope that you would know, but turns out that is exactly what was happening. Everything that had played out over the holidays, that was, I found out on Saturday, like all of these pieces start coming together, like Nancy told me about the jewelry and how she had us all try on these things so that I could try on a ring.
You're like, oh, that's so funny. I never realized.
Yeah. And then when we were in Mystic, Connecticut, I was in like the shower, in the bathroom or something, and Brett literally ran down the hall to my parents' room, asked them, you know,
style.
like, exactly. I love your daughter. What do you have to offer her? Nothing. Only this. I love it. So yeah, he asked my parents, which meant a lot to me because I know that there are some people who find that to be kind of, I was talking to Caroline about this. There are some people that find that to be a little primitive. I don't know if that's the word, but like, you know, a little
archaic.
Archaic. That's the word I was looking for. A little antiquated, a little archaic. It's less about that. It's more that like, I love that my parents knew, and I love that my parents like
were in on it.
Were in on it, gave their blessing, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's less about like, I'm their property and now he has to ask permission. It's more like,
and
I
he
just
got
love that they were a part
it.
of it. Yeah. Some goats. I wonder how many goats I'm worth.
We'll have to do the math on that.
Yeah. So he asked them in Mystic, and that meant so much to me to find that out. And also, I just can't believe my mom has been keeping this inside of her for so long, because that was not the only conversation I had with her. So a couple weeks after we got back from the holidays, Nancy and Tim came up because they were visiting. They were also celebrating Tim, Brett's stepdad's birthday, and they were also looking potentially to move here. And we were shopping at Bloomingdale's, and at one point Brett held his hand up to mine, and he slid that finger, the pinky finger with the ring on it, to my ring finger. And I knew exactly what he was doing. Brett. But again, I'm not going to ruin the fun.
You're like, oh.
Yeah. I wonder what you're doing. Now,
you're so silly.
Yeah. Turns out he actually disappeared during that excursion to Bloomingdale's, and he ran downstairs to one of the jewelry people, and he was like, I need you to size this ring for me. What size is this? And she was like, this is a women's 7. And he was like, in that moment, it was just perfect. Yeah. So that all came together.
Yeah.
And then our anniversary is Valentine's Day, and this past anniversary, so like this was maybe a month after the ring in Bloomingdale's, he and I were doing a staycation. I think I talked about it on the podcast. And
yeah, I think we talked about this on Patreon.
Yeah. We were doing a little staycation here in the city for President's Day weekend, because our anniversary is on Valentine's Day. And on Valentine's Day proper, we were laying in our apartment, and he opened a text from Scarlett, his sister, and it was just pictures of her hand with rings on them. And I caught the like quickest of glimpses at it. But Scarlett just got married last year. Why is she sending him a picture of her hand with a ring on it? So I didn't catch enough of a glimpse to see if it was a different ring than what hers was. But the reason I caught such a quick glance is because he shot up like a rocket. Like, he stood up so fast, and I was like,
from laying down on the ground
laying
to standing
on the ground. It's not like he was sitting on the couch. No, he stood up so fast, when he sat back down, pictures were gone. And I was like, okay. And I was this close to being like, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, like,
let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. We finished watching our episode of Drag Race, and I went into the bathroom. I took a bath, and I texted Gerardo, who's one of my best friends, and I was like, all right, I have to tell you what I just saw, because I have to talk to somebody about this, and we live together, and I can't just like go somewhere else and call you. That's like one of the pitfalls of living together, is that like you're there together. And so
it's a pro and a con.
It's a pro and a con. Yeah, for sure. Love being there together, but you're also there together.
Yeah.
And so I was texting him, and Gerardo was like, I don't know, that could be a myriad of things. And I found out on Saturday that meanwhile, he had asked Gerardo when I was moving in with him. Gerardo and Brett helped me move out of my old apartment, and they were sitting on the stoop at one point while I was upstairs. And he said, I think your best friend is my person, and I'd really love to marry her, if that's okay with you. And he was like, yeah, I love that.
What if Gerardo was like, Maybe.
No.
I'm a maybe.
The whole night last Saturday, we kept joking, like, what if I said no? And Brett said that he had this moment the night before where he was like, I had been so, fixated on like everything going right. And then last night I was like, oh my God, what if she says no? And I was like, yeah, you don't ever really like consider that.
Well, unless you like talked about it, you're like, okay, they're expecting this. But like there's this element to it of like, what if it's all gone wrong?
I know.
I just love that for him so much that he was like, you know what? This is just all going so well. And the night before he was like, there's another option. It's no. I'm a maybe for brunch. No. Maybe she's a maybe for me.
That's true. Could have been maybes all around. No.
Yeah. No, maybe.
No, we had talked about it so much, our future and even our wedding, like we had talked about a lot. So when we went to have our staycation for our anniversary, I had talked to Gerardo. I had talked to Danielle, who was one of my other best friends, who I told about all of these things that had happened over the holidays. And she was like, okay, let's find a way to bring this up. I said, listen, I love, like, if this is what's happening, that's great. But there is a piece of me that like kind of wants to know like what kind of ring he's thinking. Like I kind of want to have a say in all of this. Like
we were
wearing it for the rest of
this.
We literally were like, how do I bring this up?
Workshops.
Yes, there were so many workshops. How do I bring this up? And so, she's like, I think you just find a way to bring it up. And like, you can use me as an example because she just got engaged and they had designed her ring together and blah, blah, blah. So we were going to New Orleans to celebrate Scarlett and Dave's 1-year wedding anniversary. And we were talking about it as we were walking to the hotel. And we were talking about New Orleans, how excited we were. And he was like, oh, by the way, Scarlett's going to get like a 1-year anniversary like wedding band. And I was like, oh, cool. And he said it so casually and so offhandedly that I genuinely, like, I texted Danielle and I told her and she was like, do you believe him? I said, kind of. I think so. Like,
was this him like trying to play off the...
So, I don't know if I told you this part. My mom, I had talked to her. So Friday night was when I saw the rings. Saturday morning, I'm at Death Becomes Her and I call my mom and I was like, hey, listen to what I saw last night. And she was like, oh man, that's weird. She calls Brett. And she's like, I didn't tell you about this.
Jeannie, no.
She was like, she knows. You got to do damage control, man. And so she's like, she's going to bring it up to you today.
Oh my gosh.
I think we're in cahoots. Agent. Yeah. I think she and I are in cahoots. We're not in cahoots.
Wow.
She's in cahoots with someone else.
Switching sides. Double agent.
I know.
Oh, whoa. I didn't know that. Wow.
So she was like, she knows. You gotta come up with something.
So then he was workshopping with his team.
Yes. Everybody's workshopping together.
Yeah.
Just separately.
Yeah.
And
oh, man.
Yeah. So she gave him the heads up. Like she saw it, which he already figured I did. But now he has the confirmation. So he was like, I'm gonna beat her to the punch.
And you're like, okay, that's a little too, why would you tell me? That's
exactly.
So random.
I was like, okay. And so regardless, I was like, because Danielle was like, still, I think you should still bring it up. Just in case. Even if it is true that that's what's happening with Scarlett, still bring it up. And I was like, you're right. So I did. I brought it up when we were at drinks before we went to dinner. And I was like, yeah, with Danielle and her partner, they just got engaged and, they got to design the ring together. And I kind of like that. I think that's nice. And he was like, you do? And I was like, yeah, I like the idea of like, I said, it's not even necessarily like I want to design it together. It's that like, I would love for you to know what I want to wear on my finger for the rest of my life. Like I would hate for you to like go through the trouble of designing something only for me to be like, hey, that's not my taste. And he was like, well, I have great taste. And I was like, I know you do.
Yeah, but you don't have my taste.
But I want to make sure our tastes align. And so, and rest assured they do. But
gorgeous.
I didn't know. What I also didn't know, I found out on Saturday, is at that point when we had that conversation, he already had the diamond. So he was like,
And you were like, and it's ethically sourced.
And it's ethically sourced.
Maybe she wants unethically sourced.
Exactly. Shit. It was like finding out all of the little things, like putting the pieces together was really, really fun over the weekend because, of course, his whole family came in from out of town. My whole family was there. So to like find out all of these pieces throughout the whole weekend, to see things kind of click and come together was also really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing is that after that weekend, when we had a really fantastic conversation about like proposals, engagements, etc., and the ring and whatnot. But that was February 15th. And
it's been some time.
I got engaged on May 24th. So he let enough time pass that it was perfect because, again, the thought crossed my mind, but not enough that I was like, oh, this is coming. Because had he done it back in February, I would have known. And there's nothing wrong with knowing. Like, it's still, at some point, there's a surprise element to it, right? And it's still special, but it was perfect. He waited just the right amount of time. He wanted to wait till the fall. His plan was to do it in September. And I'm glad he didn't wait. I loved the way it happened. I would have loved the way it maybe would have happened in the fall. But our plan is to get married next fall.
True Gilmore style.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people in the question box were asking if we were going to do it on Suki and Jackson's wedding anniversary or June 3rd. I was like,
and you're like, definitely not June 3rd. That seems a touch cursed. I would like to not begin this cursed.
A little cursed.
I also love that you didn't have a Gilmore style engagement, which is in a fight.
So many people also said that in the question box. They were like, wondering if you guys like maybe got into a fight.
Were you guys fighting? Like, this is what the show has trained me to do. We were actually quite literally
like the opposite of fighting.
Yeah.
Like, could not have been less fighting when we got engaged. Yeah.
Like, no fights to be had, no fights to be seen, no fights to be heard. Love that.
Yeah.
But no, don't do June 3rd. Don't. No. Which is just crazy that, like, literally the whole last episode was about a wedding.
I know.
This one is about an engagement.
Yeah. So that's the engagement story. It was perfect. The When Harry Met Sally elements to it were so special and spectacular. Like, I am still reeling from it. And I wish I could relive it over and over and over again. And the pasta, the food, you guys, like, I talked about that pasta because it was incredible. All of it. I mean, it's a Michelin star restaurant. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was so good. And the flowers.
Like, they deserve their star baker.
Oh, so good. Yeah. It was perfect.
I'm so glad. We're all happy for you. On behalf of all of us.
Thank you. Trying to think if there were any elements besides those couple things that I didn't tell you about. But I don't
The genie one really threw me. That she double agented you, playing both sides.
It was so funny because, like, I think maybe had we been in person together, I may have been able to read her body language a little bit. But because we were over the phone, all of these times, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, so my best friend Gerardo, who you know and love.
I love Gerardo. This is a Gerardo stan pod.
Always has been, always will be. He's the best man, one of the best men I know. He had been asking us to spend time together, like asking for Brett and I to come over to his place. And Tuesday, before all of this happened, we ended up going over. But he had been asking for a couple dates, and Brett finally reached out to him and was like, do not ask her to come over on May 24th. You are busy on May 24th.
You have so much to do.
Yeah. So he told him, so G was really the only one of like my friends, my personal friends, like my core people who knew. Everybody else was shocked. Danielle didn't know. You didn't know. Liz didn't know. Like, and so that was actually really special for me because I got to tell.
Yeah, there's something to that
that's
like fun to know ahead of time, but there's something that's so much better about getting to tell them, getting to tell me, getting to tell all of us that like kind of would have been not robbed, but
no, it's not
just
at all.
like,
if he had told you guys, it still would have been so special, just in a very different way.
Yeah.
I loved that when I said, did you tell Haley? He goes, no, I'm going to leave that to you. I thought that was so sweet.
And here we are.
All of it. I mean, every last bit of it was so perfect. And it made me all the more excited to plan a wedding together, because that's also going to have a lot of very intentional elements to it. That's the thing, is that all of this was done with such intention and thought and care that I'm like, let's just keep, as Leo likes to say, let's keep the good vibes going.
Yeah, if anything.
Yeah.
I love. Do you think you will add any Gilmore elements to your wedding?
A lot of people ask that in the question box. And I think that the elements of Gilmore Girls that will be added into my wedding will probably be musically.
Reflecting light.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll play it at least once. Suddenly, will you let me be whatever I want? I'm the DJ now.
That's right. That's right. I told you could play whatever part you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, I'm going to be the bride and the groom.
Wow.
You guys have to leave.
Damn. All right. Well,
you said I could be whatever I wanted.
That's true.
I'm going to be the flower girl.
Okay.
I'll be the DJ.
I'll take that into consideration.
You said I could choose. We'll put up a poll.
All right.
Everyone can decide.
Sounds great. So that is the engagement story. That's how I became a little Sadie, almost married lady.
A little fiance, if you will.
I know, it's crazy. And
this is like the last thing I expected to come out of that story. Genuinely. I didn't think under any circumstances that's where you were going.
Yeah.
I was down for the whole ride.
I love that you were right there with me. It was great. Okay, so before we wrap up, I just wanted to read some of the things that our besties put in the question box, because some of them were cracking me up. Maddie says, best wishes, Tara. Congratulations, Brett. And best wishes for the BFO TV. That's you.
That's me.
That's you.
I love that I'm involved in this.
I know. Bella said queen of manifestation after watching that kiss scene 100 times.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people in the viral video were like, oh my God, you have Jess at home, which like she has like a Jess ass looking Luke, because like I just listened to the episode that went up on Patreon, which was I'm a Kayak, Hear Me Roar. And you had been talking about when you left a previous recording and you came out and he had made you steak to watch Gilmore Girls with together. And I was like, everyone, okay, he can look like Jess, but he's a Luke. Yeah. This man's a Luke.
Yeah, it's true.
With a BFA.
With a BFA. He kept saying that. I meant to mention that. Is that I was like, baby, you played this so cool. He was like, I have a BFA. Yeah. And I was like, you do. It's true. And you earned it. Cheers. Yeah, because somebody also said bagged emotionally stable Jess. And I was like,
I know.
Thank you. I actually, in speaking to a lot of people asked about like, will there be Gilmore elements? Will there be Gilmore winks in your wedding? I mean, the answer is we don't know, because
we'll invite
so
Lauren Graham,
fresh.
Happens.
Yeah, duh. Say less.
Yeah.
But Ariel said, please play Bill from Wedding Bell Blues at the wedding reception.
Wedding Bell Blues. And oh no, Bill.
Well, Wedding Bell Blues. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that song. I mean, I love it. I have always wanted to play that at my wedding just because I love the song. I also love the Gilmore elements. But a fun fact about our friend Brett is that Brett's first name is William.
Yeah. Oh.
So it would make a lot of sense.
So I always will. We'll call him Bill the whole wedding night.
Oh, he'll hate it. Nancy will also hate it.
Sorry. It's in the song. It's for one night and one night only. His name is Bill, and this is your song.
I think it would be a really sweet,
little
moment. So yeah. Someone said, any cringy or not Gilmore Girls themes happening in your wedding? Nothing cringy is happening at my wedding, or at least I will not be
intentionally add the cringe. The cringe will be natural.
Nothing will. Yeah, it'll be so natural. But someone said, "Yay, cue the Ella Fitzgerald," and I'm like, "Yeah, see, like stuff like that. I would love to incorporate."
Started.
Oh my gosh,
Do you think that you'll do, because like, of course we have content outside of Gilmore Girls in our own lives. Do you think that you'll be sharing this journey, this like bride journey, bride content creator as you move towards your wedding? Keep us involved. I'll be involved. I don't know about
you'll be involved the whole way. I don't know. I don't think so.
Like you're not going to add like 2026 bride to your Instagram bio?
Absolutely not. Hell no.
Please do. Just for all of us. Just for the girls who get it.
Oh my God.
Not
the girls who don't get it.
You do.
I just the girls who don't get it will be like
be like, what did you do?
What?
No, not that it's bad, because I know a lot of people, like content creators, will be like, oh, of course, this is what's happening in my life now. So it's like, if you are also a bride, here's inspiration. Like, it makes total sense that you would do that, like as an influencer content creator. But I just wanted to know if you would be making content around it.
I don't know. Maybe. It really just depends. The thing about our wedding and just me in general, when it comes to weddings, is like, after being in so many, there's so many elements to our wedding that are going to be a little less conventional. And I don't say that with any disdain for conventional or traditional weddings and the way that people tend to do them. But there are so many things that we're both just like hard pass. We're not doing that. And so in that sense, there might be some sharing of that, but I don't know if I'd necessarily want to share that before we do our wedding or after we do our wedding. Maybe afterwards I'd be like, hey, here's how I did. Like, here was the result. Now let me take you through how the sausage was made, kind of a thing, instead of taking people through that as it was happening. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll definitely write about some of it.
Yeah. And your little
if it feels natural, yes. But I don't know.
It's not an intention right now, but it might arise. You can change your mind.
I can change my mind.
Yeah. Change your mind like the seasons.
Yeah, it's true. This really, really made me laugh. Someone said, I genuinely gasped so loud on the VTO live that my husband was worried about me for a second. Because there were so many people, and I love you guys so much. There were so many people who commented and were like, oh my God, I just gasped like a friend of mine just got engaged, which, like, we're all friends. I mean,
we're all friends here.
Yeah. And so that made my heart smile, because I was like, yeah, you guys have been along for this journey. You know, you literally heard me be like, yeah, I'm dating this guy. And so, like, there's something so sentimental and special about that, to hear about someone's relationship from its inception, and how much like Brett has been woven into this show, and how much I've talked about him. Yeah. And so to see our journey and like see how excited you guys are for us is really special. So thank you for all the love, because it's been really lovely, and really getting me through the fact that immediately after I got engaged, I got the flu. So
I think that is a good sign. You know, so?
Like, good omen?
You know, like when it rains on your wedding day, it's like a good omen.
Rain. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. Sing it, girly.
I can barely squeak out anything right now, but
it out. What's his name?
I'll squeak out
the
ironic.
Little Wheezy Penguin? Wheezy from Toy Story.
Yeah, exactly. That's me.
That's you. Where was I even going with this? Oh, it feels like a good sign that, like, you know, like in sickness and in health, like immediately you're engaged, immediately in sickness.
Yes.
And now,
and he said that to me. He was like, in sickness and in health. I was like, yep, we got both.
It's like we're test them all right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the other ones? That's the only one I can remember.
Richer, poorer.
Okay. Slay. Maybe you're going to get richer.
Hope so.
Maybe you're going to get poorer.
Okay. Let's not put that out there.
Let's not manifest that one. Let's manifest the other way.
Yeah. Only
maybe
the other way.
Maybe this is poorer, and then you're just going to get richer.
You're right. That's really what
there
it is.
Go. We start with the bad part. Not that that's bad, but it's just like not as good as the other one.
It's not as fun as the other one, right?
Yeah, not as fun. You buy Taylor Swift tickets with the other one.
Exactly. But thank you guys so much for all of the love that you've sent. I really wanted to share this story with you guys. I'm glad we got an opportunity to. I'm glad that fate kind of stepped in and was like, hey, maybe do this.
Hey.
But next week
we do want to cover ATX, but
we do. And we wanted to cover it
said.
really close to its anniversary, but we're still close enough to its anniversary.
Close enough.
Yeah,
exactly. It was 10 years ago, like 2 weeks ago. Like
exactly.
It's totally fine. But I'm just very excited for you. I'm very excited for the conversations that this is going to bring out as it relates to Gilmore Girls, especially looking back on our thoughts of engagements and weddings and bachelorette parties. Maybe we'll have you build a Gilmore wedding, like with all of the elements, like Tara's alternate wedding through only Gilmore Girls elements, which I thought might be really fun. But I think it'll bring up a lot of fun conversations, and just think it'll be a fun time to be on Patreon too, because we'll be yapping over there. Which was also fun revisiting that episode, because we were about to watch Kill Me Now with the wedding with the twins. Was that Kill Me Now?
Right. Yeah.
We were about to watch that episode, and now we're in season 7, which just feels it really is like
so polar opposite.
And I think as much as the actual podcast, like our hero podcast, Gilmore to Say, chronicles our lives, I feel like Patreon does like tenfold, because we just talk so much about ourselves and like how we relate to the show, but then we just like yap and yap and yap about various aspects of our lives. And I think that episode really reminded me of that, of like, I'm sure we were talking about like your new boyfriend Brett.
I know.
Only to come 3 years later to VTO where y'all are engaged. So,
which is
if y'all want more of that, definitely join in on Patreon.
I have a feeling that I'll be sharing a lot more, not like specifically personal details, but a lot more about like kind of the wedding planning journey, probably over on Patreon.
Just because we yap more.
Yeah, we just chat. We get a little more personal. Our episodes aren't usually super personal like this. It's on pod.
We try to stay on topic, on theme.
Yeah.
We try to stick with
But
the theme.
this is a very special moment for us. So
for me and you.
For both of us.
BFOTB.
BFOTB.
And you're the B.
I'm the B, which is great.
Queen B.
Yay. But next week we will be diving into ATX and celebrating the 10-year anniversary of that. Again, just a reminder, I've never seen it, so I'm really so excited. I know, me too. It's going to be really great.
And we'll have more to say on that in the next episode.